Welcome everyone, join us today as we delve into founding member and the original guitarist of the legendary band Chicago, Terry Kath. Known for his innovative guitar playing and powerful voice, Kath's influence on rock music is undeniable. So let's dive in. Terry Allen Kath, born January 31, 1946 at Chicago, Illinois, in the United States of America. Raised in the Norwood Park neighborhood of Chicago, Terry Kath was born to Raymond Elmer and Evelyn Moline. He had an older brother named Rod and attended Taft High School. His parents, who loved music and ran a lodge, enjoyed entertaining guests. His brother played drums, and his mother played banjo, both of which Terry also tried to learn. In the 9th grade, he got a guitar and amplifier. Early influences included The Ventures, Johnny Smith, Dick Dale, and Howard Roberts, and later, George Benson, Kenny Burrell, Mike Bloomfield, Eric Clapton, and Jimi Hendrix. Unlike many of his Chicago bandmates, Terry was mostly self-taught and loved jamming. He briefly tried professional lessons but quit, saying in a 1971 Guitar Player interview, "All I wanted to do was play those rock and roll chords." Despite his father's hopes for a steady career, Terry chose music, joining his first semi-professional band, the Mystics, in 1963, then Jimmy Rice and the Gentlemen in 1965, and later playing bass for Jimmy Ford and the Executives. Seen as the band's leader, Terry steered their musical direction. Ford played trumpet, Walter Parazaider handled saxophone and other wind instruments, and Danny Serafine later joined as the drummer. Terry formed a strong bond with Serafine, who admired Kath's charisma. Standing 6'2" with a burly frame and a lazy grin, Terry was hard to miss. Serafine likened him to Robert Mitchum, calling him a real man's man. However, Serafine sensed a darker side beneath Terry's cheerful demeanor. The three often socialized outside the band. They were eventually fired from the group, which wanted to merge with another band, Little Artie and the Pharaohs. As leader and guitarist Mike Sistak put it, "It's just business." A year later, the trio joined the Missing Links, where they met Lee Loughnane. In 1967, Terry, Loughnane, Serafine, and Parazaider teamed up with trombonist Jimmy Pankow, vocalist, keyboard player Robert Lamb, and vocalist, bass guitarist Peter Cetera, renaming themselves The Big Thing. During an era marked by Sgt. Pepper, the Vietnam War, and LSD, artistic boundaries were blurring. However, as a club band, they were still expected to wear smart suits and play top 40 covers. In protest, Terry once showed up with his suit jacket worn backward. When The Big Thing played The Mothers of Inventions, "How Could I Be Such a Fool?" a Milwaukee club owner fired them. The band later admitting they just wanted to play rock and roll with horns. By then, ambitious songwriter, producer James Guercio, who had written Chad and Jeremy's US hit, Distant Shores, had noticed the band. Guercio signed them to his production company, moved them to Los Angeles, and renamed them Chicago Transit Authority. In 1968, Chicago Transit Authority signed with Columbia and began recording their self-titled debut album, produced by James Guercio, who also managed the band and controlled their publishing. Released in April 1969, the double LP showcased a variety of styles, particularly in its 6.5-minute opener, Introduction, written and sung by Terry. The album also featured Terry's dissonant solo piece, Freeform Guitar, which received airplay on classical stations. Terry was noted for pioneering techniques similar to those of Jimi Hendrix, playing innovative guitar solos before Hendrix's style became widely known. In a 1971 interview with Guitar Player magazine, Terry expressed astonishment upon first hearing Hendrix, as Hendrix was playing the same innovative guitar techniques that Terry had envisioned. To support the album's release, Chicago Transit Authority opened for Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin in the spring of 1969. The band first met Hendrix and drummer Mitch Mitchell when they attended their gig at the Whiskey A Go Go. Walt Parazaider recalled Hendrix telling him, "Your guitarist is better than me." As the lone guitarist in a group with 3 horn players, Terry made his presence felt. Even during their club days, he would bang his guitar off his amplifier Pete Townshend style, to make it talk, showcasing his dynamic style. Terry was not only a phenomenal rhythm player but also incredibly inventive both on stage and in the studio. He utilized wah-wah pedals, distortion, endlessly sustained notes, and two-handed tapping, which would later become Eddie Van Halen's trademark. His unique sound stood out among guitar players. Despite its quality, Chicago Transit Authority only reached number 17 in the US, though it did crack the top 10 in Britain. This was partly due to the success of James Guercio's other new signing, Blood, Sweat and Tears, who had just hit number 1 with their second album. Nonetheless, Chicago Transit Authority had their own distinct songs and an exceptional guitarist. Receiving legal threats from the actual Chicago Transit Authority, Guercio renamed the band Chicago and sent them back to the studio. Their next album, Chicago, released in January 1970, featured Ballet for a Girl in Buchanan, a nearly 13-minute piece split into 7 movements, including film soundtrack-style instrumentals and starting with Terry's Make Me Smile. The album's other standout track, 25 or 6-4, written by Robert Lamb, showcased the band's musical virtuosity, melodic talent, and Terry's dynamic guitar work. Shortly after the album's release, Chicago embarked on a European tour aboard a brand new Boeing 747. At their Royal Albert Hall performance in London, each band member received a standing ovation upon introduction. In a 1970 NBC interview, James Guercio remarked, "If Johann Sebastian Bach were alive today, he would probably be performing in a band similar to Chicago." During their first UK tour, the band felt like true artists rather than just a pop commodity. However, this sense of artistic achievement didn't exclude typical rock and roll antics, involving women, booze, and drugs. Serafine himself returned home to find that late nights and overindulgence had led to tuberculosis. Back in the US, Chicago finally broke through when an edited version of Make Me Smile reached the top 10. Initially upset that Columbia was altering their music, the band soon realized it meant more radio play. Their balance of art and commerce continued when an edited 25 or 6-4 went top 5 in both the US and UK. This success marked the start of a relentless album tour cycle. The band, with many songwriters, managed to keep up despite their constant touring. While America embraced them, Britain's enthusiasm waned. During a press conference at the London Hilton, Terry, frustrated by constant praise for British guitarists Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page, made offensive remarks about Clapton and insulted England. This incident embarrassed the band and strained their relationship with the UK audience. Recorded in the summer of 1970, Chicago Live at Tanglewood, an unofficial but readily available album and film, captures their dynamic guitarist perfectly. Terry, with his flying hair and linebacker build, commands the stage with an electric guitar. He grins, sways, shuffles, and delivers an astonishing solo on 25 or 6-4, exuding leadership. Terry was considered the musical leader. During solos, band members listened for his high-pitched whistle, a signal that they had 8 bars left before returning to the bridge. Chicago 5, released in July 1972, became the band's first US #1 album. Songs like Dialogue, Parts 1 and 2, and Saturday in the Park marked new heights. However, a planned Japanese tour was postponed due to Robert Lamb's illness. During this time, James Guercio directed the movie Electra Glide in Blue, about an Arizona motorcycle cop's encounter with local hippies. Guercio cast Loughnane, Terry, Parazada, and Cetera as the hippies, taking advantage of their real-life personas. The film's soundtrack included the Terry-sung ballad, Tell Me. In a chilling foreshadowing of real-life events, Terry's character shoots a cop. By January 1978, Chicago had parted ways with James Guercio and brought in a new manager. The band, while still performing well, faced internal challenges and added pressure to produce hits, leading to frustration for Terry. Tensions among band members, including issues with Peter Cetera's confidence, were affecting the group's dynamics. Terry had no confirmed plans to leave the band, but there were indications he was preparing a solo album, which might have offered him a creative outlet. In Terry's personal life, his marriage to Pamela Robinson had ended, and he was now in a serious relationship with Camelia Ortiz, with their daughter Michelle born 2 years later. Despite this, the partying continued. During the recording of Chicago's 6th album at Guercio's Caribou Ranch studio, drug use intensified, with cocaine becoming prevalent. A 1974 TV special, Meanwhile Back at the Ranch, depicted the band and their partners at the studio, showcasing Terry riding his motorcycle around the mountains. Many members, including Terry, appeared to be under the influence of drugs. Terry, known for his high tolerance for drugs, began collecting guns and taking them everywhere. This dangerous combination of drugs and firearms proved to be perilous. The band continued to score #1 albums, but tensions arose between those favoring Chicago's jazz-oriented style, like Serafine and Terry, and those pushing for shorter, radio-friendly songs, like Guercio and Satira. Ironically, the song that transformed Chicago into a pop act, If You Leave Me Now, was almost excluded from the 1976 album Chicago 10. It was added last minute at Guercio's insistence. If You Leave Me Now was a successful pop hit but deviated from Chicago's usual sound and did not feature Terry, who had opted to ride his motorcycle instead of participating in the recording. Terry's escalating drug use was becoming a significant concern, adding to his growing unhappiness and depression. His fixation on guns also alarmed his bandmates. In Paul Mendoza's book, The Eyes That Smiled, an incident is described where Beach Boy Carl Wilson witnessed Terry playing Russian roulette during a party. Wilson, in a panic, knocked the gun away, prompting Terry to punch him, leading to intervention by Robert Lamb and others. On the night of January 23, 1978, Terry was at the apartment of Chicago roadie Don Johnson in Canoga Park, California. Terry, who had been using cocaine for several days, brought his guns into the apartment and started cleaning one at the kitchen table. Johnson warned him to be careful. Terry showed him the gun's clip in his hand, saying without the clip, the pistol wouldn't fire. Terry then put the clip back into the gun and began waving it around, believing the chamber was empty, unaware that a single bullet was in the chamber. The gun accidentally discharged, and Terry was killed instantly. Although there were rumors he took his own life, the Chicago bandmates consistently reject this notion, calling it a tragic accident. Terry left behind his partner Camelia, and their young daughter, Michelle. He is buried next to his parents in the Forest Lawn Memorial Park Cemetery in Glendale, California. The band was deeply affected by his death and considered breaking up, but was encouraged to continue by Doc Severinsen, musical director of The Tonight Show. In 2016, Terry's daughter, Michelle Kath Sinclair, premiered The Terry Kath Experience at the Toronto International Film Festival to honor her father. And there you have it. Thank you for watching our tribute on Terry Kath. His legacy lives on through his unforgettable music and the profound impact he had on the world of rock. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more stories about the legends of music. Take care and bye for now.